I thought losing Dad was the worst thing that could happen to me. With my stolen inheritance money, but that wasn't the worst part. 7 people were dead, and I was supposed to be number 8. I never thought my own sister would steal from me, but when I found the wedding invitation in my mailbox 3 months after Dad's funeral, everything clicked into place. The envelope was cream-colored and fancy, the kind that costs more money than I spend on groceries in a week. My hands shook as I opened it, even though I already knew what I would find inside. Brielle Manning and Garrett. Cross-request your presence at their wedding celebration. My younger sister, my ex-boyfriend of 4 years. I dropped the invitation on my kitchen counter and stared at it. The wedding was next Saturday at Riverside Gardens. How could they afford that? Then I remembered Dad's money. My money. 6 months ago, Dad had a heart attack while fixing the fence behind his house. He was only 58. One minute he was hammering a loose board, and the next minute he was gone. The doctors said it was fast, that he didn't suffer. I suffered enough for both of us. 2 weeks before Dad died, Garrett broke up with me. We were sitting in his truck outside my apartment when he said it. I need space to think, Sage, about everything. I thought he meant space to figure out our future together. We had been talking about moving in together, maybe getting married someday. I was so stupid. How much space? I asked him. He wouldn't look at me when he said it. Now I know why. After Dad's funeral, I met with his lawyer, Mr. Peterson. Dad had always told me that when he died, I would get his savings, $180,000. It was enough money to open the pottery studio I had dreamed about since high school. Your father was very clear about his wishes, Mr. Peterson said. He was a thin man with kind eyes. He wanted to help people. It's all right here in his will. Mr. Peterson showed me the papers. Dad's signature was at the bottom, but something felt wrong. Dad always said that money was for me, for my dreams. Are you sure this is right? I asked. I'm afraid so. Your father changed his mind about 6 months ago. Right around the time he got sick 6 months ago, when Garrett started acting strange. When he began asking questions about Dad's money and health, I took the papers home and read them over and over. The words didn't make sense. Dad loved kids, but he loved me more. He wouldn't give away my future without telling me, but there it was, his signature. His decision, or so I thought. For 3 months I tried to move on. I kept working at Dr. Miller's dental office, cleaning teeth and pretending my life hadn't fallen apart. I lived in my tiny apartment and ate cheap food and watched my dreams get smaller every day. Then came the wedding invitation. I picked it up again and looked at the date. Garrett and Brielle got engaged. 2 months after Dad died, right around the time the insurance money and Dad's savings got donated to charity. My sister had always been Dad's favorite. She was pretty and fun and knew how to make him laugh. But she was also irresponsible with money. In college, she maxed out 3 credit cards and had to drop out for a semester. Dad paid off her debt every time. The one with a steady job and a savings account. The one who visited Dad every week and helped him with his taxes. A year, I sat down at my kitchen table and really looked at the invitation. The paper was thick and expensive. The printing was gold. Even the envelope had a fancy wax seal. This wasn't just any wedding. Dollars worth of money? My phone buzzed, and I was going to find out what the next morning. I called in sick to work. They went to high school together and stayed close for 40 years. Lit up Sage. What a nice surprise. Come in, honey. Photos of his grandkids covered every table. I need to ask you about Dad, I said. About his will? Milton's smile faded. Your dad was worried about some things. Before he died, what kind of things? Milton sat down across from me. He was worried about Brielle, her spending problems. I felt sick. Dad never told me any of this. Said he was helping with legal matters. But your dad didn't need help. He was sharp as ever. What do you mean? Your dad changed his will 3 times in his last few months. One day he'd say Brielle needed the money because she was in trouble. Who convinced him to change it? That's what bothered me. Every time your dad called to change the will, it was right after Garrett visited him. I set down my coffee. My hands were shaking. Milton, where would Dad keep important papers? Really important ones. You know your dad. He was paranoid about banks and lawyers. He probably hid everything in that old safe behind his bedroom painting. The safe. I remembered it from when I was little. Dad would open it to get cash for special occasions. The combination was my birthday, May 17th, 94. Thank you, I said, standing up. Thank you for telling me the truth. Milton grabbed my arm gently. Sage, be careful. If something fishy happened with that will, there might be people who don't want you to find out. I drove straight to Dad's house. Mom had been trying to sell it, but there were no buyers yet. I still had the spare key. That house felt cold and empty. His reading glasses were on the kitchen table. It hurt to be there without him. I went to his bedroom and moved the painting of a mountain lake. The safe was small and black, built right into the wall. My hands shook as I picked up the recorder. Why would Dad need to record anything? I pressed play. Dad's voice filled the room, weak but clear. This is Harold Manning. Today is March 15th. I'm making this recording because I'm scared about what's happening in my house. March 15th. She took $40 from my wallet while I was in the bathroom. When I asked her about it, she cried and said she needed it for groceries. But I saw her credit card bills. She's spending money at jewelry stores and fancy restaurants. I sat down hard on Dad's bed. The recording continued. Garrett was here. Yesterday. He keeps asking about my will and my savings account. He says Brielle is in real trouble and needs help. He brought me papers to sign, legal papers. Dad's voice got quieter. I'm confused about what's right. Maybe Garrett is right. Maybe Brielle needs the money more than Sage does. I signed the papers, but now I'm not sure. My head feels fuzzy lately. And again, Garrett brought Dad medicine. Why would Garrett bring him medicine? I looked through the other papers in the safe. There was Dad's original will, dated 2 years ago. It left everything to me. All signed in Dad's shaky handwriting during his last few months. At the bottom of the safe was a note in Dad's handwriting. More recordings hidden in garden shed. If something happens to me, give everything to Sage. My heart pounded. There were more recordings. I ran outside to the shed behind Dad's house. It was full of tools and old paint cans. But in the corner, wrapped in plastic, was another small recorder. I was about to press play when I heard a car in the driveway. I looked out the shed window, a silver car I didn't recognize. The engine turned off and I heard footsteps coming toward the house. I stuffed the recorder in my jacket pocket and waited. The footsteps stopped at the front door. Someone tried the handle. Dot. My blood turned cold. Someone else had a key to Dad's house. I crouched behind Dad's old lawnmower and held my breath. Through the dusty shed window, I watched someone walk around. The side of the house, it was Brielle. She looked different than I remembered. Her hair was blonde now instead of brown, and she wore expensive clothes. A designer purse hung from her shoulder, the kind that costs more than my monthly rent. She went to the back door and used a key. My key, the spare key I had given her years ago when Dad first got sick. I waited until I heard the back door close, then snuck closer to the house. Through the kitchen window, I could see Brielle searching through Dad's cabinets. She was looking for something specific. My pocket felt heavy. With the recorder I had just found, did she know about Dad's recordings? After 20 minutes, Brielle left empty-handed. She looked frustrated as she got back in her car. I memorized the license plate number. Once she was gone, I went back inside and played the second recording. Dad's voice was even weaker this time. March 28th. Garrett came by again today. He brought more of those pills for my heart. But I checked with Dr. Peterson's office. They said I'm not supposed to take heart medicine with my other pills. When I told Garrett this, he got angry. He said doctors don't know everything. I felt sick. Garrett wasn't helping Dad. He was making him worse. The recording continued. I hid my real pills in the shed. I've been pretending to take the ones Garrett brings me. My head is clearer now. I can think again. I know what they're doing to me. Dad knew, somehow. He figured it out. I'm going to change my will back. Give everything to Sage like it should be. But I need to be careful if they find out. I know. The recording ended there. I sat in Dad's kitchen and cried. He tried to protect me, even when he was dying, but I needed more proof. I needed to know how deep this went. That afternoon, I drove to the mall where Garrett used to work. He had quit his job at the electronics store right after Dad's funeral. His old coworker, Emma, still worked there. Emma was restocking cell phone cases when I found her. She was a nice girl, a few years younger than me. Sage, I haven't seen you in forever. I'm so sorry about your dad. Thank you. Hey, can I ask you something about Garrett? Emma looked around to make sure her manager wasn't listening. What do you want to know? When did he quit exactly? The day after your dad's funeral? Just walked in and said he didn't need the job anymore. Said he was coming into money soon. She made air quotes with her fingers. My stomach dropped. He said that? Those exact words? Yeah, he was bragging about it. Said he and Brielle were going to travel and have a big wedding. We all thought he was just dreaming big, you know? But then we saw the engagement announcement in the paper. Did he ever mention my dad or talk about helping him with anything? Emma nodded. All the time, especially the last few months before your dad died. He kept talking about how your dad trusted him with important stuff, legal stuff. He said your dad was getting forgetful and needed help making decisions. Forgetful. Dad was never forgetful until those last few weeks. Until Garrett started bringing him medicine. Emma, this is important. Did Garrett ever mention my dad's will? She looked uncomfortable. I probably shouldn't say this, but yeah, he told me your dad was leaving money to charity instead of family. He said it was because your dad thought family should work for their own money, but he seemed really happy about it, which was weird. Happy? My ex-boyfriend was happy that my dad was giving away my inheritance. I thanked Emma and left them all. My next stop was Dad's doctor. Dr. Peterson had been Dad's doctor for 15 years. His office was in an old building downtown. The waiting room smelled like disinfectant and old magazines. I need to ask you about my dad's medications. I told him after explaining why I was there. Dr. Peterson pulled up Dad's file on his computer. Your father was very healthy for his age. His heart condition was mild. He only needed 1 pill a day. What kind of pill? A low-dose beta blocker. Very safe. I told him to take it once in the morning with food. Did you ever prescribe additional heart medication or tell anyone else to give him pills? Dr. Peterson frowned. Absolutely not. Why do you ask? I told him about the recordings, about Garrett bringing Dad medicine that made him confused. That's very concerning, Dr. Peterson said. Beta blockers are safe, but if someone gave your father additional heart medication without my knowledge, it could cause serious problems. Confusion, weakness, even heart problems. What kind of heart problems? In the worst case, heart attack. The room felt like it was spinning. I gripped the arms of my chair. Dr. Peterson, could extra heart medication kill someone if given in large enough doses or mixed with the wrong things? Yes, it could be very dangerous. I left the doctor's office feeling sick. Garrett hadn't just stolen Dad's money. He had hurt him, maybe killed him, but I still needed more proof. My last stop was First National Bank, where Dad kept his accounts. I knew the manager, Mrs. Rodriguez, from when I used to go to the bank with Dad as a kid. I need to ask about my dad's safety deposit box, I told her. Mrs. Rodriguez looked sad. I'm sorry, dear, but someone already cleaned it out. Right after the funeral. Who? She checked her records. It says here, Brielle Manning and Garrett Cross. They had the proper paperwork, power of attorney forms. Can I see the security footage from that day? Mrs. Rodriguez hesitated. That's not really standard procedure, please. I think someone forged those forms. She must have seen something in my face, because she nodded. Wait here. 10 minutes later, I was looking at grainy black and white footage from 3 months ago. There was Brielle looking nervous. There was Garrett, carrying a briefcase and looking confident. They went into the vault together. When they came out, Garrett's briefcase looked heavy. Brielle carried a manila envelope. What was in Dad's box? I asked. I can't say exactly, but your father kept cash in there. And important documents. He didn't trust keeping everything in regular accounts. Cash, documents, all gone. I drove home as the sun was setting. My apartment felt small and depressing after everything I had learned. I sat at my kitchen table and made a list. 1 Garrett gave Dad medicine that made him confused. 2 Garrett convinced Dad to change his will multiple times. 3 Garrett quit his job the day after. Dad's funeral for Garrett and Brielle cleaned out. Dad's safety deposit box. 5. They're having an expensive wedding with money they shouldn't have. It was all connected, but there was still something missing. Something bigger. I picked up the wedding invitation again next Saturday, 6 days away. Suddenly, I remembered something Dad used to say when I was little. If you want to find buried treasure, Sage, you have to keep digging. There was more to find. I was sure of it. I grabbed my keys and headed back to Dad's house. If there were more recordings, more evidence, I was going to find it. The house was dark when I arrived. I used my flashlight to search the shed more carefully. Behind a stack of paint cans, I found something wrapped in plastic. Another recorder, and a small metal box with a padlock. My hands shook as I played the 3rd recording. April 1st. This is my last recording. I know what they did to me. I know what they're planning. But I'm too weak to stop them now. If something happens to me, I want Sage to know the truth. The whole truth. It's all in the metal box. The key is the recording cutoff. I looked at the padlock on the box. Where would Dad hide a key? Then I remembered. When I was 8, Dad taught me to hide spare keys in fake rocks in the garden. We used to play treasure hunt games. I ran outside with my flashlight and searched the flower bed. Behind the rose bushes, I found it. A fake rock that opened up. Inside was a small key. My heart was pounding as I unlocked the metal box. Inside were documents, photos, and one more thing that made my blood freeze. A bottle of pills. Heart medication. The strong kind that Dr. Peterson never prescribed, and a note in Dad's handwriting, proof of what they did to me. I stared at Dad's note until the words blurred. Proof of what they did to me. My hands shook as I looked through the rest of the metal box. There were photos I had never seen before. Pictures of Brielle with different men over the years. In every photo, she looked expensive. Designer clothes, fancy jewelry, nice restaurants. But I knew Brielle never had money for those things. One photo made my stomach turn. Brielle and an older man at a casino. She was wearing a wedding ring, but it wasn't her ring. The man looked rich but sick, very sick. On the back of the photo, Dad had written, Phoenix, 2019. Mr. Williams died 2 months after this was taken. There were more photos like this. Brielle with sick, wealthy older men, always wearing wedding rings, always looking happy while they looked weak. At the bottom of the box was a folder full of papers, bank statements from accounts I didn't know existed, insurance papers for people I had never heard of, and obituaries. Lots of obituaries. All the men from the photos were dead. I felt like I was going to throw up. I sat down hard on Dad's garden bench and tried to understand what I was seeing. My sister wasn't just a thief. She was something much worse. The first obituary was from 2018. Robert Chen. Obituary was from 2019. Frank Williams, 72, died unexpectedly from heart complications. He is survived by his devoted wife Brielle, but I kept going. In the folder was a letter Dad had written but never sent. Dear Police Chief Martinez, I am writing because I think my daughter Brielle is dangerous. I found these papers in her old room when I was cleaning. I think she has been marrying sick old men and then killing them for their money. I don't want to believe it, but the proof is here. I also think she is planning to do the same thing to me, but I am also ashamed. How did I raise a daughter who could do these things? Sage, she deserves to know the truth. Harold Manning. The letter was dated March 30th. 3 days before Dad died, I cried until there were no more tears left. Then I got angry, and Dad knew it. I looked through the rest of the papers. There were copies of marriage certificates. All fake, according to Dad's notes. There were bank records showing large amounts of money, copies of the death certificates for all 6 men. Every single one died from heart failure. Just like Dad. At the very bottom of the folder was something that made me gasp. A small notebook in Brielle's handwriting. It looked like a diary. The first entry was from 2018. Robert is getting sicker. The pills are working faster than I thought. $300,000? Not bad for 6 months of work. I flipped through more pages. Each entry was about a different man. Each entry talked about pills and insurance money and how Garrett says to do things. Garrett had been helping her all along. For years. One entry from last year made my blood freeze. Dad is the perfect target. He's getting older and he trusts Garrett. $180,000 in savings, plus the house, plus life insurance. Garrett thinks we can make it look natural just like the others. They planned Dad's death for months. The last entry was dated 2 days before Dad died. Dad is getting suspicious. Garrett says we need to speed things up. Tomorrow, we're going to give him extra medicine. Make it look like his heart just gave out. I feel bad, but we've come too far to stop now. Dark garden and tried to process everything. The notebook mentioned a storage unit where they kept backup documents. The address was written on the last page. I drove across town to Valley Storage. Dad's notebook said Unit 47. The lock was cheap. I broke it with a crowbar from Dad's shed. Inside the storage unit were boxes and boxes of evidence. Photos, documents, fake IDs, and medicine bottles. Pictures of Garrett visiting Dad. In some photos, Garrett was holding pill bottles. Like he knew what was happening but was too weak to stop. At the bottom of Dad's box was a video camera. If you're watching this, it means I'm dead, he said. And it means Sage found my hiding places. I'm making this video because I know what's going to happen to me. Brielle and Garrett are going to kill me, just like they killed those other men. Dad's voice was shaky but clear. I found Brielle's diary. I know they've been poisoning me with heart medication, making me weak and confused, so I'll sign papers and change my will. It's not the medicine Dr. Peterson prescribed. It's something much stronger. Something that will kill me if I take enough of it. Sage, if you're watching this, I want you to know that I tried to protect you. I hid all the evidence. I wrote letters to the police, but I'm too weak now to fight them. They're going to win. His voice broke. I'm sorry, sweetheart. I'm sorry. I couldn't stop them. But please don't let them get away with this. Don't let them hurt anyone else. The video ended. I sat in that storage unit and cried for my dad, for all the men Brielle and Garrett had killed, for the life that had been stolen from me. But then I got angry again. Really, really angry. They thought they had one. They thought they were going to have their fancy wedding and live happily ever after on blood money. They were wrong. I gathered up all the evidence. The photos, the documents, the notebook, the video, everything. Tomorrow was Friday, the day before their wedding. It was time to end this. But first, I had one more place to check. The notebook mentioned a final surprise hidden at Brielle's apartment, something that would seal the deal forever. Don't let them get away with this. I wouldn't. Was still waiting for me. I never made it to Brielle's apartment that night. As I sat in my car outside her building, I saw police cars everywhere. Red and blue lights flashed in the darkness. A neighbor was talking to a police officer. I rolled down my window to listen. "She moved out 3 days ago," the neighbor said. "Took everything and left. Didn't even say goodbye." My heart sank. Brielle was gone. But where? Dad's video, the diary, the photos, everything pointed to one thing. Brielle and Garrett were killers. If Brielle had moved out 3 days ago, why was the wedding still happening? Where was she staying? And what was the final surprise her diary mentioned? Saturday morning came too fast. I put on Dad's favorite dress. The blue one, he said, made my eyes sparkle. If I was going to confront my sister, I wanted Dad with me. Riverside Gardens was the fanciest place in town. White tents and flowers everywhere. A string quartet played soft music. Guests in expensive clothes walked around drinking champagne. I recognized some faces. Cousins I hadn't seen in years. Dad's old friends. Mom was there, wearing a new dress and crying happy tears. None of them knew what they were really celebrating. I stayed in the back, behind a large tree. I wanted to see everything before I made my move. At exactly 2 o'clock, the music changed. Everyone sat down, like he didn't have a care in the world, like he hadn't murdered 7 people. Then the wedding march started. Everyone stood up and turned toward the back. Brielle appeared in a white dress that must have cost thousands of dollars. She looked beautiful and radiant. The perfect bride, the perfect killer. As she walked down the aisle, I saw Mom crying with joy. I saw our cousins taking pictures. I saw Dad's friends smiling and nodding approval. They had no idea who they were. Really looking at the ceremony began. The minister talked about love and commitment and building a life together. "Do you, Garrett Cross, take Brielle Manning to be your wife?" "I do," Garrett said, smiling like he'd won the lottery. "Do you, Brielle Manning, take Garrett Cross to be your husband?" "I do," Brielle said. Her voice was sweet and innocent. I almost threw up. "You may kiss the bride." My sister had just married her partner in crime, and everyone was celebrating. The reception started immediately. More champagne, fancy food, dancing. They kept touching each other and laughing. I waited until the speeches started. First, Mom talked about how proud she was of Brielle. To speak, I stood up. "I'd like to say something," I called out. The room got quiet. Brielle saw me for the first time and her face went white. "Honey, what are you doing here?" I walked to the front and took the microphone. My hands were shaking, but my voice was steady. "I want to tell everyone about the beautiful love story between Brielle and Garrett," I said. "It's really quite amazing." People smiled, expecting a sweet speech. Their love story started 4 years ago when Garrett was dating me, but he realized he had found something special with my sister, something worth waiting for. Garrett was starting to look nervous. You see, Garrett discovered that Brielle had a very special talent. She was good at taking care of older men, really good at it. I pulled out the photos from Dad's metal box. In fact, she had already taken care of 6 men before she met Garrett. Here's Brielle with each of them. All married to her, all dead within months of their weddings. Gasps echoed through the tent. People started looking at each other with confused faces. "Sage, what are you doing?" Brielle stood up, her face red with anger. "This is my wedding day." "Yes, it is," I said. "Your 7th wedding, actually, and hopefully your last." I pressed play on Dad's small recorder. His weak voice filled the tent. "Garrett brought me more of those pills for my heart today, but I checked with Dr. Peterson's office. They said I'm not supposed to take heart medicine with my other pills." Mom's face went white. She was staring at Brielle like she'd never seen her before. I stopped the recording and pulled out Brielle's diary. "Target, he's getting older and he trusts Garrett. Plus, he has way more money than any of the others. Dad is getting suspicious. He's been asking too many questions about the pills. Garrett says we need to speed things up. Tomorrow, we're going to give him extra medicine." I pulled out the pill bottle from Dad's metal box. "Is having some kind of breakdown, really?" I pulled out my phone and played Dad's video. His scared face appeared on the screen. "If you're watching this, it means I'm dead, and it means Sage found my hiding places. I'm making this video because I know what's going to happen to me. Brielle and Garrett are going to kill me, just like they killed those other men." The tent erupted. Brielle was screaming at me, but I couldn't hear her words over the chaos. Garrett was trying to pull her toward the exit, but Uncle Marcus stepped in their way. "You're not going anywhere," Marcus said. His face was red with anger. "Not until the police get here." Within minutes, sirens filled the air. Police cars surrounded the wedding tent. Detective Rivera, whom I had called that morning, walked straight to Brielle and Garrett. "Brielle Manning and Garrett Cross, you're under arrest for the murder of Harold Manning and 6 other victims. You ruined everything," she hissed. "We would have been happy." "You murdered our father," I said. "You don't deserve happiness." Garrett was trying to blame everything on Brielle. I didn't know. He kept saying, "She told me they were accidents." But I had his voice on Dad's recordings. I had photos of him bringing Dad the poison pills. He was just as guilty as she was. As the police led them away, the wedding guests stood in shocked silence. The beautiful white tent suddenly looked like a crime scene. Mom came over to me, tears streaming down her face. Uncle Marcus put his arm around both of us. "Your dad would be proud of you, Sage. You got justice for him and all those other men." I watched the police cars drive away with Brielle and Garrett inside. The fancy wedding was over. The murder spree was over. But I couldn't feel happy yet. There was still one more secret to uncover. The final surprise that Brielle's diary mentioned. That night, Detective Rivera called me. "Sage, we found something at the storage unit. Your father was number 7. My blood went cold. What about number 8? There was a long pause. "The 8th name is yours. The 8th name is yours." Detective Rivera's words hit me like a punch to the stomach. I sat down hard on my couch, the phone shaking in my hand. "What do you mean?" I whispered. "We found detailed plans, Sage. They were going to kill you next. Make it look like suicide. They had it all figured out. Can you come to the station tomorrow? There's a lot more you need to see." That night, I didn't sleep. I kept thinking about all the times Brielle had been nice to me lately. Murder. The next morning, Detective Rivera showed me everything. The police had searched the storage unit completely. They found boxes and boxes of evidence that made my blood run cold. "This is their master plan," Detective Rivera said, showing me a notebook in Garrett's handwriting. They called it the Sage Project. The plan was detailed and horrible. Then they would start visiting me regularly, bringing me vitamins for stress, and people would get suspicious. So they had a backup plan. They were going to stage your suicide, Detective Rivera explained. Make it look like you couldn't handle your dad's death. Brielle would find your body and inherit everything you owned. Plus, she'd get sympathy from the family. The notebook had pages and pages of details. They'd studied my habits for months. They knew I went jogging alone every morning at 6. They knew which route I took through the woods behind my apartment. The plan was to drug me during one of their caring sister visits, then carry me to the woods. They would hang me from a tree and leave a fake suicide note. "Dad, the grief is too much. I'm sorry for the pain this will cause. Please remember me as I was before I lost everything. Love." Sage. My hands shook as I read it. How did they copy my handwriting so perfectly? Brielle had samples, old birthday cards, letters you'd written to your dad. She practiced for weeks. I felt sick. While I was grieving Dad's death, they were planning mine. "There's more, Detective," Rivera said gently. "We found evidence of their other murders too. All 7 men were killed the same way. Poisoned with heart medication, then their deaths made to look natural. What happens now? They're both being charged with 7 counts of murder and conspiracy to commit an 8th. With all this evidence, they'll never see freedom again." The trial took 8 months. I had to testify about everything. Dad's recordings, the storage unit, the wedding confrontation. She claimed she was just a victim who got caught up in his schemes. But her own diary proved she was the mastermind. Garrett tried to claim insanity, said Brielle manipulated him into helping her. But the evidence showed he was an equal partner in every murder. The jury didn't believe either of them. "Guilty on all counts," the judge said. Brielle got life in prison without parole. Garrett got the same. They would never hurt anyone again. After the trial, I got Dad's money back. All of it. Plus money from the other victims' families who sued Brielle and Garrett's estate. But the money felt dirty. It was built on so much pain and death. I decided to do something Dad would be proud of. I used part of the money to start a foundation for crime victims' families. The rest went to opening my pottery studio, just like Dad always wanted. I called it Manning Pottery Studio. Dad's picture hangs on the wall, watching over everything. Teaching pottery to kids became my favorite part. Working with clay is healing. You take something broken and shapeless and turn it into something beautiful. Just like what I had to do with my own life. Mom struggled for a long time. She blamed herself for not seeing who Brielle really was. We went to therapy together and slowly learned to forgive ourselves for being fooled. "Evil people are good at hiding who they really are," our therapist said. "That's what makes them dangerous." 6 months after the trial, I got a letter in the mail. The return address made my stomach drop. It was from the women's prison, where Brielle was serving her sentence. I almost threw it away without reading it, but something made me open it. Asterisk, "Dear Sage, I know you'll never forgive me. I don't expect you to, but I need you to know that I never wanted to hurt Dad or you. It just got out of control. Garrett made me do things I didn't want to do. He said if we didn't follow through with the plan, we'd go to jail for the other murders. I was scared. I know that's not an excuse. I know what we did was evil, but I want you to know that somewhere inside me, I still love you. You're my sister, and that will never change. I'm glad you stopped us before we hurt you too. Maybe some part of me wanted to get caught. Maybe that's why I left so much evidence around. I hope you can find happiness, Sage. I hope you can have the life Dad wanted for you, your sister Brielle. Asterisk, I read the letter 3 times, then put it in my desk drawer. I didn't know if I believed her or not. Maybe she was still trying to manipulate me even from prison, but it didn't matter anymore. She couldn't hurt me or anyone else ever again. 1 year after the trial, I was teaching a pottery class to a group of 8-year-olds. They were making bowls for their mothers for Mother's Day. Their little hands were covered in clay and they were giggling as they worked. Miss Sage, one little girl said, my bowl is all crooked. Can you fix it? I looked at her lopsided bowl and smiled. Sweetie, the most beautiful things in life aren't perfect. They're real. It was beautiful because it was hers. As I watched the kids work, I thought about Dad. He used to say that some people would try to steal my dreams, but they couldn't steal who I really was. He was right. Brielle and Garrett stole a lot from me. They almost stole my life too, but they couldn't steal my dreams. They couldn't steal my ability to love and create and help other people. I looked up at Dad's picture on the wall. It was crooked and imperfect, but he loved it anyway. I did it, Dad, I whispered. I got justice for you and all those other men, and I'm living the life you wanted me to have. The afternoon sun streamed through the studio windows, warming the clay and making everything glow golden. For the first time since Dad died, I felt truly at peace. Some stories don't have happy endings, but some stories have real endings. Endings where justice wins and good people find ways to heal. This was one of those stories, and it was finally finished. That's the end. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Where are you listening from? I'd love to know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this tale, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Your support gives me the motivation to post more frequently.